Welcome, all of you. Today is the last day. I can't believe that 6 days we were together, um, even on cloud. I felt I got used to this. Now I'll be missing this tomorrow, definitely, most definitely. Right. Okay. In the brochure, I have mentioned culture of hearing in Thirukural, a review. Uh, it's interesting that we are doing that in the final day. We had solid examples and review of sign language, deafness, deaf culture, and everything. But it may be good to understand culture of hearing. What is hearing and its implied meaning on deafness, for deafness. Uh, there are many ways to do that. One, I could have chosen a contemporary film, maybe Sound of Metal, and many more, and do a film review. But I thought of becoming a bit adventurous, and I took this topic. By no means I know Thirukural very well. I read it when I was in school. After that, I left it for good, and now I'm coming back. As you all know, Thirukural is a classical, belong to classical antiquity. Um, it is made up of couplets, and Thirukkural, it is attributed, the authorship is attributed to Thirukkural, and it is a Tamil literary masterpiece. Okay, so that much uh, I think we all may know about it. Uh, how do we understand or how do we look at hearing culture? And what do we mean by hearing culture? So that leads to that question. So, in other words, how do we study classical antiquity or ancient past and make some meaning out of it for the present? There are two ways to do it. Well, there are 100 ways to do it, but broadly, looking at ancient past from the contemporary perspective in the 21st century, say gender equality. So one, uh, um, brings together whatever one knows about gender equality based on our 21st century reading, theory, sociological reasoning, and then uh, assess it from that point of view, the distant past. The second is to look at ancient past in its own right, uh, uh, go to make an archaeology, go past, meaning study around any literary text, go to, stone inscriptions, uh, read together and make meaning based on that, read literary text, folklore, historical materials, some manuals and everything, and make some meaning out of it. Um, and the third one is some kind of a mishmash of both. Uh, I'm going to, well, maybe the mishmash approach, but by and large, inferential meaning. I just infer things. And by no means it is a finished research paper. It is just an exploration. Even I would even call it, it's just a loud thought for the sake of this uh, conference workshop. I didn't I don't have extensive reading on the subject. I just want to try it aloud with you. All right. What model I have? What is the example? I'm not looking for any example, but there is a wonderful essay written by Michel Friedner, Friedner, and Stefan, Stefan, Helmrich, Helmreich, Helmrich. When the essay is called "When Sound Studies Meet Deaf Studies." See, basically, both the people explore a simple idea. The simple idea is this: a lot of people assume wrongly, that deaf people have nothing to do with sound. Uh, and second, deafness and hearing are opposites. Opposites so much that they look like antonyms or opposites. They look like they have nothing to do with each other. Both the people, Friedner and Helmrich, they challenge this by looking at sound in different dimensions with reference to deafness. I'm particularly taking these two examples. Uh, uh, they recall an anecdote. This is a very interesting anecdote. You may like it. There is this one deaf person working for a coal mine in America. Okay, this is during the early industrial, uh, early part of the 20th century, I believe. And this guy has to get up early morning at 5 o'clock, and there was no alarm clock for him. So what he made an arrangement with a neighbor. Hey, you wake me up at 4:30. How? They made a rope arrangement near the window, and early morning 4:30, the 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 neighbor used to pull the rope violently. To the extent that it may make shuttering sound in the window, and it make uh, good enough vibrations. And then this guy wakes up and he will go to the coal mine, work until late night, and come back and crash. So that was the arrangement. Later on, they both figured out something. Okay, instead of this me pulling the rope, maybe we can tie an iron bar to the clock, and when the clock strikes, it will make a huge vibration on the floor in your room, and then you can get up. Then that worked. It seems the whole community around him, his home, they woke up to the huge vibration sound, and they found it very very nice vibration sound. Uh, Citing that anecdote, uh, uh, both of them asked the following questions: What deaf people have some inferred knowledge about sound, apart from the visuality of the sound. For example, when I clap like this, it is also visual, both hands coming together and making a thud. So that means this thud has a visual meaning and it has an inferred meaning. You can make something out of it. And something depends on the age of a deaf child or a man or woman. We don't know. There may be million permutations of meaning one can make out of it. The second is the vibration. Well, I'm tuned to this sound, but there may be a lot of people who may be tuned to the vibrations created by the clang. This may sound abstract, but let me give a practical example, folks. Take this anecdote. A mom is there. She has a little baby in the crib or in a lab, and she's singing a lullaby. Joe, Joe, like this. And it is rocking movement. And when she's rocking like this, with the baby in hand, gently singing a beautiful lullaby, and the baby feels the rocking vibration of both the rocking and the sound of lullaby, and the child happily sleeps. Well, this happens million times every day across continents. And maybe the lullaby may be different, but the rocking vibration is same, and which connects beautifully the mother and the child for a lullaby for the sleep. And it's happening. So like this, maybe there are millions of possibilities where sounds transfer itself, and deaf people, because of their unique cultural experience, connect to sound. And maybe it's worth exploring this. With that spirit, I explore ancient antiquity, Tamil antiquity, particularly Thirukural, with my preliminary, cursory, little knowledge of the field. Okay, so that's the statutory note of caution. All right, okay. Hearing cultures. How do we think about hearing cultures and Thirukkural? Hey, Thirukkural lived long ago. There's no way I can know about hearing, the culture of hearing. But we have some clues from the context of Thirukkural. Right. Thirukkural is didactic, means it has moral messages, moral codes. It is a text that will guide people in the art of living. In ancient antiquity, Tamil and beyond, the art of living was influenced by and large by different notions. One notion that was unique to that age and is not necessarily unique to our age is the presence of God on earth. Well, we do believe in faith, we do believe in God, but there is a difference. Suppose I complain suddenly some pain here as I'm speaking now. You may not sit on a chant or kneel down or pray to the Almighty. You will alert, and probably authorities here will be around. Oh, Haim is complaining some chest pain. Let's pause for a while and let him be taken to a hospital. What we will, and then still we may pray. That's another matter. So the pre-modern or the antiquity is shaped by the presence of God, so much that God has a consultative, conversational relationship with people. Why am I saying all these things? Well, the context of hearing. To understand hearing culture, we need this to be understood. We need to understand how they conceived of good life. A good life, the context, people who lived in the context of Thirukural imagine as a life with dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Well, what is that? Aram, porul, inbam. Three, but dharma is a notion. Dharma, aram, porul, inbam. I'll come to that very quickly, but broadly, dharma means some kind of harmony. In Tamil, it can approximate to aram, means living a righteous life with harmony. Artha, search of wealth and material. Porul in Tamil, seeking life, wealth, and so on. Kama, well, it has to do with happiness, pleasure, pursuits of pleasure, sensory and otherwise. And moksha, the other world, the God. Again, but in Thirukural context, it comes under aram, leading a good life. In a way, you should be good here when you're here, and if you are good here, you will also earn sufficient maybe it's like charging your credit card for the life out there above. If you're good, you will reach there. If you're not good, I'm afraid you will reach somewhere else. So that seems to be, and that was indeed, if you like, their lifestyle. That's how I like to explain it to my students. It's their lifestyle. So integrating dharma, kama, artha, and moksha is their lifestyle. And kural, that is couplets that I have distributed to you, somewhat cater to it. And not only that I distributed to you, not only the ones that I distributed to you, but the entire couplet tradition. And these couplets, as I told already, they are didactic, they are moral instructions. That didactic is a fancy word for moral instruction. Okay, where is hearing culture? You are saying all these things. Oh yeah, I remember. Any moralizing requires people to listen, no? I am speaking, you are listening now. That is a literal act. Ears. I'm using, somebody may use the camera like eye to see, or mic like ears to listen. But when it came to moral connection, ears or hearing, it is much more than listening, much more than sensory experience of hearing or listening. It's much more than that. It is if you like, it is a connection. It's an interpersonal relationship. So in other words, 20th and 21st century or even 19th century modernity, modern life is based on literal division between senses. There are professions that would involve a lot of seeing. Maybe this is not suitable for blind people. Maybe there are lot of jobs like call centers where a lot of hearing and speak. Maybe they are not useful for deaf people. You know, that kind of literalism almost did not exist. I'm sure discriminated existed in the ancient past, but productivity related discrimination did not almost exist. Why? Why? Because the moralizing, moral instruction, the moral view of life involved a cross-sensory thinking. How? That sounds abstract, but let me talk through it a bit practically. Well, I said about dharma, right? So leading a good harmonious life, for example, would involve equal amount of caring to people. You need to establish harmony. Then you have to interconnect with your people around. So you cannot lead a harmonious life if you listen a lot to some people and if you neglect some people. So proportioning interpersonal connection. And interpersonal connection, hearing becomes some kind of a metaphor for harmonious interpersonal connection in that part of the world. So hearing is not strictly by sense of ear, but kind of interpersonal connection. Well, Artha would involve managing rhetoric, the art of persuasion. If you're a trader, you better do healthy bargaining, give and take. Speak and hear in many possible ways with the people whom you interact, not necessarily just hearing people. You have to rhetorically speaking and rhetorically hearing. You have to be deploying that power. Where in the pursuit of pleasure, you cannot. In the pursuit of pleasure, in fact, the ancients, including Thirukural himself, was deeply suspicious about, deeply suspicious about senses. In fact, he would advise, withdraw your senses, including the sense of hearing and speech. When necessary, deploy it carefully. And when it came to God, God speaks through metaphors. Moksha, the other world life. The other world life and its great wealth and its great grandiose life about devas, gods, asuras, and all that, the stories will come in metaphors. Therefore, your preparation for the other world will involve You know, giving up literalism and indulging in and getting on to hearing, speaking, touching the divine, tasting the divine, hearing the divine, seeing the divine beyond senses. So what am I saying? In simple words, the ancients have one single good thing to tell us. That is, beta, cross, give up literalism. There is something unique in metaphorical journey across senses. Don't you dare just reduce ears to hearing, eyes to seeing, tongue to tasting. They are interconnected. They are much more than in your body. They belong to the moral realm. They belong to the pleasure realm. They belong to the otherworldly and this worldly realm. It is organic. I seem to see that much now. I have given a lot of couplets to you that seem outrightly discriminatory to deaf people. I suggest that we look at those couplets in the following spirit. Discrimination against deaf people, blind people, people with intellectual disability, we cannot rule out in any epoch. They were there, they are there, and they will be there. The whole challenge of our activism, academic enterprise, well-meaning conversations, they are meant to address them. I'm not ruling that out. However, we can think about the following thirukkurals or couplets to make some insights based on whatever I said. Okay, take the following kural in your hand. I read it out. When there is no food for the ear, give a little also to the stomach. I read it again. When there is no food for the ear, give a little also to the stomach. Okay. Look at the one more couplet. As the anicham flower fades in smelling, so fades the guest when the face is turned away. Read it again. As the anicham flower fades in smelling, so fades the guest when the face is turned away. Ah, very nice. When there is no food for the ears, give a little away to the stomach. In this couplet, the stuff that we hear, the stuff that we eat for food, for survival, is food. And the conversations that we had, learning we do, is conceived like food, like a gustatory imagination, something like taste and food. See how you take food. Food, you need to like it, and it goes inside your digestive system, like it, you taste it. And see, likewise, the knowledge has to be loved, chewed, and digested. I'm reminded of Francis Bacon's famous writing on that. So anyone who digests or looking forward to tasting knowledge and digesting is said to be a good listener, not necessarily the person who would hear the knowledge and take the knowledge through hearing. Look at this, Anicham flower. Anicham flower is, I do not know whether it exists now, but in the ancient antiquity, Thirukural says, just by smelling the flower is so delicate that it fades away. Vadi porudu. I mean, it's just stops blooming and it dries up and dies. Similarly, if you have a wrong countenance, meaning wrong, and suppose I come to your guest, suppose I come to your home, and you are busy and you start looking at your watch, then I will get the message. Okay, these people don't like my presence. Then I'm going to, okay, I just passed by this place. I'm going to, go. So this couplet comes under the section of hospitality. Why did I introduce this idea? Just to tell you, just to convey the idea that interpersonal connections involve synesthetic, that is cross-sensory conversations. So it doesn't have to be centered on eye, or it doesn't have to be centered on ears alone. Whole body language, whole setting, whole modality of connecting matters. And and knowledge acquisition also depends on how we conceive it. If we conceive it as a great food, then we will taste it, digest it. But if we conceive it as only as a skill set, like how we do in 21st century, then we will ask, who is this skill set meant for? Is it for guys who can see, or is it for guys who can hear? Or is it not for who cannot see, or is it not for who cannot hear? That kind of dichotomy. But everybody likes food. Well, we may not all like sandwiches. Somebody may like sandwich and somebody may like halwa or chicken. I'm going to list all my favorite food now, but I'm not going to do that. Don't worry. Okay. So what is the note I'm trying to say here? Irrespective of the nature of knowledge, knowledge is synesthetic. It depends. The appreciation of it depends on how you look at its shape, not by how you perceive by physical senses. That moral view seems to be a democratic form of thought, which I think did exist in the ancient past. It's something that we can adopt for our sensory politics in the 21st century. Let me read out another choral couplet for you. Although a man be without learning, let him listen to the teaching of the learned. That will be to him a staff a staff in adversity. Reading again. Although a man be without learning, let him listen to teaching the learned. That will be to him a staff in adversity. Well, you know, folks, modern notion of teaching and learning is different. It is institutionalized. It is in the form of university, school. In many of our setting, rote learning happens. And many of our setting, radical and very practical, outstanding learning happens, as we saw it yesterday. All right. However, here, what is the message here in the couplet? To people who are conscious about disability politics, there are many things happening here. It's like staff, you know, the elderly carry a crutch. So, so when even if somebody is not learned, let him listen to the learned, and so that would come handy. When, in what way it will come handy? As good as a staff or a crutch for the elderly. So that's that kind of message. Well, we can understand, we can see this as a outright modalities of discrimination existing across classes and all that. I'm sure class differences plagued the ancient past, and caste differences too. And Thirukkural also reads, Thirukural has lots of traces of gender discrimination, caste discrimination, and many other evils. It does ratify them. But that's not the point here. The point I'm making here is about the idea of learning. Ancient, that is, antiquity learning until the recent modern happened through gurus, wise men, wise women too, like we are, who would people would go to them, sit with them, live with them, and learn under their supervision. One may call it Guru Parambarai Prabhavam, or some kind of hagiographic learning. What am I trying? Half an hour, right? Yeah.
No, sir, 40 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Yeah, okay. I will finish in 10 minutes. What am I saying here? Here, the idea is not about listening to the learned. The idea is to adopt the modes of the learned, that is the guru or the wise, and then go by it. So knowledge by living and learning with the teacher. Whether that model is good or not, that is, see, ancient models may not be good now. But the point is about different notion of listening that came out here. Let me give a few more chorals, couplets, and then I will close with a closing remark. Let me give one more choral here. Just pull it up from your file. What does it matter whether those men live or die? Who can judge of taste by the mouth and not by the ear? Let me repeat. What does it matter whether those men live or die? Who can judge of taste by the mouth and not by the ear? Let me read another couplet and then explain them together. The learned are said to have eyes, but the unlearned have merely two sores in their face. Gosh. So, what is happening here? So, on the one hand, I praised the notion that one should appreciate knowledge, which comes in the form of food. It is more than hearing. It is more widely sensoricized and so on. But here, he's saying those who just live for living, live for food, what is the use of their living? They, they should go by the taste of hearing. But that is a clue there. Hearing, the faculty of hearing or experiencing knowledge through hearing is not conceived merely by sensory performance of hearing, but by the way it is conceived. Here, the taste of hearing. The language is violent, of course, about what is the use of people who maybe in didactic literature take for granted they won't be politically correct. They will say by this kind of simple proverbs and anecdotes, simple sayings, and that would make all the difference. And the last quote that I said, the learned are said to possess eyes, and those who are not just having sores in their face. Now we can understand that metaphors matter in ancient antiquity, are not necessarily, literalism of the senses. Literalism of the senses involves skill set modality of learning. Ancient modality of learning is metaphorical, synesthetic. It is driven by aesthetics. I mean, Indian rasa tradition. We don't have to get there. Okay, my attempts. What is my attempt so far? My attempt so far is to make sense of these couplets, which look outlandishly discriminatory and politically incorrect. In that attempt, I came to the following conclusion. One, discriminations don't die. They take different shapes across ages and cultures. Two, it is important to grow up from literalism. We need to understand that our human life has metaphorical meanings, synesthetic notions. We organically connect, and therefore we cannot hereafter, and we can ill afford to say that people with certain faculty are suitable for certain kinds of knowledge and vice versa. That is nonsense. Like ancients, it's good to understand knowledge, perception, experience, digestion, transfer of knowledge in an organic way. And third, we don't also have to conceive of senses, particularly hearing, as a task-oriented. Hearing could be spiritual, to the realm of, as the ancients conceived, to the realm of moksha, kama, artha, and so on. Well, we don't have to subscribe to all these four notions now. We are in the 21st century. But whatever pursuits we do, we don't have to be making very crude literalism. And secondly, we don't have to think and act as though senses work separately. And lack of senses, also lack of hearing, for example, would lead to total cutoff from that domain knowledge. No, that does not happen. So that I would imagine as the lesson from reading of Thirukural from the classical antiquity. With that remarks, I close my preliminary cursory notes. Thank you.